let's get back to reading that. Forgot to close the soundproof door. It was cracked open. Daughter, grandson, wife, gone to bed. So, all right, let's get back to it. So, chapter 3 from the 10 lost tribes of Israel in Europe, excuse me, and their future reunification with the house of Judah. There's been some bad, I don't know, it was some virus thing up in the sinus cavity, and still it was trying to go down into my lungs. So I've been battling like 3 weeks to keep it hacked up from not filling up my lungs and turning into some green sputum color that will cause pneumonia, because I've been through that before and it ain't fun. And it's actually, as you quite know, if you've had it or even heard, pneumonia can kill you. You know, if you're not in good health, you know, various reasons, you know, look into it if you don't know. But it was, my daughter had to wait to get first to the doctor. She went to the hospital, no, it was the hospital, and they prescribed her some amoxicillin strength antibiotic that's for children, and it did absolutely nothing. And of course it was, she's weighs, I don't know how much, I don't want to go into her weight, but she's a voluptuous big girl. She's very pretty. My daughter is one of the most prettiest women I know. My daughter is. But anyhow, she's got this bad ear infection, and she ain't been listening to her daddy about it. And now it was doing this, you know, where it was go open and close. And but anyway, she had to wait until today to get the medicine, and it's been like days over past the weekend. And when she went to the emergency room back like on Thursday or something. But anyway, she finally got her doctor to write her the script for the no, she went to the doctor and they were out of it. That's what it was. They were out of the medication, and she had to wait until today to get it from her pharmacy. But anyway, she didn't try hard enough to get it from another one. But anyway, yeah, everybody just, you know, take care of yourself. You know, a lot of bugs and crap going around, and, you know, hopefully they don't release any of those genetically engineered ones. Okay, so let's go on with this. Chapter 3, the deportation of the 10 tribes of Israel. One small note I wanted to make, year-wise. So if anyone's thinking about this, from 745 BC to 721 BC, and we're in the year 2026, we're in the 2700 year ago time frame that this took place. The exiled 10 tribes were taken into exile, or, you know, put into exile. Okay, so here we go with chapter 3. That's one of the reasons I say this book is 2,700 years in the making. That's kind of where I got the saying. Hosea's prophecy was fulfilled when the Assyrian Empire invaded and deported the northern kingdom of Israel. You see how that prophet worked right there? He foretold this thing. God said he'd divorce them, and that's how he did it. But they didn't all get put to the sword. That was more of God's plan to keep a good portion of them alive from each of the tribes so that they could repopulate. I'm sure quite a few of them weren't going to give up, So some of the greatest warriors in each tribe, probably, it was a bloodbath until, they just were outnumbered by the large forces of Assyrians, and because they didn't obey God anymore, they had no God behind them. Simple as that. So that's why I say God bless America. There's a verse, I believe it's in Psalms. It says, "Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord." Now, how truer a statement could that be? Now, coming all the way out of Egypt, have we not learned anything? Okay, let's go on. Hosea's prophecy was fulfilled when the Assyrian Empire invaded and deported the northern kingdom of Israel. There were 3 Assyrian invasions. The first Assyrian invasion is recorded in 2 Kings 15:19 through 20. King Menahem of Israel paid off the king of Assyria not to attack the kingdom of Israel. So the impact upon the 10 tribes was minimal. The second invasion was much more severe. It took place approximately 715 BC in the reign of King Tiglath-Pileser III of Assyria. I know I butchered that word. I see that one, and I kind of just like, okay, yeah, that Assyrian king. But I read his name, probably 175 times over 3 years in my studying, before Michael's book came out, and and then so on and so. But anyway, highly mentioned in the Assyrian library, the King's Library of the Assyrians that was uncovered by the English. You're going to learn about it in here. By the British. Okay, so 715 BC. And resulted in the Assyrians conquering and deporting the Israelites of Galilee and Gilead, which was 2/3 of the kingdom of Israel. The remaining rump state of kingdom of Israel around its capital Samaria was reduced to an Assyrian vassal state. We'll stop there. So I'm thinking, am I just, my eyes are, no, that's a RUMP. I've seen that twice now. I'll have to ask Michael if that's a typo or the remaining rump state. Okay, anyway, let's continue on. The next part is out of the Bible, and I will give you the verse out of 2 Kings. In the days of Pekah, king of Israel, came to Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, and took Ijon and Abel-Beth-Maachah and Janoah, Janoah, and Kadesh, and Hazor, and Gilead, and Galilee, and all the land of Naphtali, and carried them captive into carried them captive to Assyria. 2 Kings 15:29. After the second Assyrian invasion, Hosea, not the prophet, became king of Israel, a man named Hosea, by overthrowing Pekah. And Hosea, the son of Elah, made a conspiracy against Pekah, son of Remaliah, and smote him and slew him and reigned in his stead. 2 Kings 15:30. This is corroborated by the ancient Assyrian inscriptions, which also confirmed that the Assyrians carried away all the inhabitants of the conquered areas, the cities of Galazah, Abelaka, which are on the border of Bet Humri, Bet Humri. Okay, now listen to some of these words here, as they're in this area over here, the Upper Levant, over into northern Iran, over to the coast of the Black Sea, and around by the Caspian, around by the Ural. These different names and language that we hear. These Scythians. Just listen to some of as the names change or close, or just even how obvious the evidence is right here, what they discovered in the Assyrian library. Let's see. Okay, this is where we're at right here. This is corroborated by the ancient Assyrian inscriptions, which also confirm that the Assyrians carried away all the inhabitants of the conquered areas that I just named in the land of Naphtali entirely, and I brought within the border of Assyria. My official I set over them as a governor, the land of Bet Humria, all of its people together with all their goods I carried off to Assyria. Pakah, their king, they disposed, and I placed Asi as king. 10 talents of gold, 10 talents of silver, as their tribute I received from them, and to Assyria I carried them. The third Assyrian invasion was by far the worst. It terminated the kingdom of Israel and resulted in the deportation of all the remaining inhabitants of the kingdom of Israel. The third invasion was started by King Shalmaneser of Assyria in 723 BC and finished by his successor King Sargon in 721. The Assyrians deported the 10 tribes of Israel out of the land of Israel and settled them in northern Assyria, in areas which today are in Iraq, Syria, Iran, and Turkey. Armenia, that area includes part of Kurdistan, kind of get the, the kind of the area that we're talking about, over from where Noah's Ark is, over to the top of Iran, all over the top part of the where the Tigris and the Euphrates flow down into the Mesopotamian area. They were put kind of internet, just they're sort of in a line across there, sort of good farmlands and stuff that, as a buffer zone against the Medes and the Persians and the Babylonians, and a kingdom that I had never even heard of before called the Ratu, that was right to the north. And you're going to love the story about Aratu. I first heard about it from a historian called Adrian Gilbert, who lives in Kent, England. Jolly good chap. But anyway, he has some good videos too. But and he's an author of many books, and he writes on many things, and he's written on this subject. But I've looked through his books, and he doesn't have this book. I understand Yard Davidley has a book that he wrote on the 10 tribes called The Tribes, but I haven't been able to get it to pop up on YouTube that I know of. You know, maybe it's been a long time since I tried. When Michael's book came out, I just wanted everybody to say, this is what I've been looking for 41 years. My search started, Michael says in 93 his began. That's what we read on the back cover of his book. 85 to like 88 right in there. I mean, God was already like dropping the, the tap, and do I think that I'm crazier about this thing, or could it be true? I felt that it was true, but I couldn't speak of, how can you speak that something is true if you have no proof, right? You look silly in a court of law and to a judge when you have no proof. Well, now I have the proof that I was looking for 41 years. So, anyway, I didn't know that the book reading was also going to turn into a blow-by-blow commentary, but most of the time I'll just read, but I thought we'd take some time this evening. Well, it's evening somewhere. It's morning to me now. But I've been on a weird schedule trying to get this whole mission project thing launched with wings and flying. So there you have it. Anyway, let's go on. Aussie AUSI had been installed as their king, and then the king of Assyria has placed them, and then a governor is put over them in the exile land. The third Assyrian invasion by far was the worst. It terminated the kingdom of Israel and resulted in the deportation of all the remaining inhabitants of the kingdom of Israel. The third invasion was started by King Shalmaneser of Assyria in 723 BC and finished by his successor, King Sargon, in 721 BC. The Assyrians deported the 10 tribes of Israel. This is where we went, and I started talking about Armenia and Kurdistan, and over in Turkey from about where Noah's Ark is over to there. And there was a place called Chimeria. And weirdly enough, maybe I'm wrong, wasn't Conan from there? Wasn't Conan a Crimean? Or something like that? Or a Samaritan? A Sumerian? Yeah, I've watched that movie a few, and I know I've heard the name from like this area that we're talking about. And he, as a matter of fact, in the book, there's these, you'll learn about dolems. And if I had read Ms. Radcliffe's preface, or the preface, yeah, the she talks about the dolems, you'll learn about Jeremiah's the waymarks that Jeremiah prophesied about. But anyway, these dolems are everywhere, and they were to remind the Israelites how to get back home. They're all over Europe. They're all the way up into Ireland, all the way up through everywhere to Denmark. I think I was watching one of Michael's videos that I've watched before. There's like 9,000 or something dolems just in Denmark alone. I mean, that is insane. At one point they built so they didn't want to forget how to find their way back home. But then I guess everybody just forgot, you know. So it's time to wake everybody up. And the rock piles, if you're in Europe, the rock piles are your clue how to get home. Okay? All right, so the third invasion, all right, so then that area that we're talking about, and then I'll go ahead and show you this picture here. This is a picture you'll see if you look closely in there where they took them up into and they placed them. Now you're going to find out, and he's going to come to that part, I'm sure, that it says this in the Bible, the same thing that it says in the Assyrian library, it says in the Bible, the exact same thing. Then the king of Assyria came up throughout the land and went up to Samaria and besieged it 3 years. And in the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried Israel away into Assyria and placed them in Hala and in Habor by the river of Gozan and in the cities of the Medes. That's from 2 Kings 17, 5 through 6. Therefore, the Lord was very angry with Israel and removed them out of his sight. There was none left but the tribe of Judah only. 2 Kings 17:18. The biblical narrative is perfectly clear and cannot be misinterpreted. The Assyrians deported all of the inhabitants of the kingdom of Israel. If you didn't understand what Michael wrote in his book and what I just read, back it up, read it, understand it's a very important thing to understand that they were all taken out. None of Israel was left there. They were all taken out. Okay? Very important to understand. Judah, on the other hand, was left until they were captured by the Babylonians and taken out. And then they were restored to the land 70 years later, I believe, or 77 years later, or 70 years later. Anyway, we'll get into that in a few pages, I believe. Um, so it was King Sargon who finished off the invasion with the capture of Samaria and the capital of the kingdom of Israel. On an inscription, Sargon records that he deported 27,280 of the inhabitants of the city of Samaria. In the beginning of my reign, the city of Samaria I besieged, and I captured 27,280 of its inhabitants I carried away. Hold on a second, I have to turn this heater off. This room was ice cold, now it's roasting hot. There, that'll be better. I got so busy excited with my new hobby and topic and mission here that I let this room turn into a roaster oven. But that's good. It's very cold. Been getting very cold at night here in Prescott. I live about a mile, in elevation above sea level. Prescott is, and it gets here very cold here at night. It can get pretty cold, chilly at night here, even in the summertime, because it's pretty high up in the mountains. But anyway, let's go on with this. So if you want to share where you are in the world, please do. I'm still trying to figure out how the comments things work on everything on the different platforms. But if you really appreciate it if you would go to Mikkel's channel. His channel is his name, Mikkel s.kragh, Kragh. And you just punch in his name and you go right to his channel. And he's got 49 videos that he's made using some of it in there. Recent has been current events. Some prophecy video has gone in there about Gaza, and there's a prophecy in Zephaniah 2, and when I watched that video, and I had kind of a little mind-blowing experience that night, or daytime, whatever time of day, I can't remember when I watched the video. That's neither here nor there what time of day it was. It's always a great time to have your mind blown. That's what I say, get those of knowledge that just, or a new experience that is just so real that they're just great. You know what I'm talking about. You've all experienced them before in your lives. Okay, so anyway, he just straight out says how he jacked up all the Israelites and took them out of the land, and he didn't leave nobody. All right, so critics of the lost tribes have claimed that the Assyrians only deported 27,280 Israelites out of the kingdom of Israel in total, but it is perfectly obvious that the 27,280 deported Israelites were from the city of Samaria. Yeah, and not the entire kingdom, right? Duh. It tells, where are you going to make your last stand? At the walled, castled city. The same that happened in the southern. That was, they came and they raided the land until all the towns and villages and, just stables along, whatever it was raided and burned, and they took the animals and the people and the captive and put all their weapons probably in carts and hauled them all away, tied up, you know what I mean, by the neck, tied behind the back or in the front and whatever, and roped by the neck, and off they went. Of course, they made their last stand at a walled city, Samaria. It tells you in the Bible who was the first of the people on the side on the east side of the Jordan today that we know of. You know the Jordan River where Jesus got baptized, all right? And now over on the other side is those cliffs and everything where they found the Dead Sea Scrolls, and the Jordan over there, and there's a place called Petra. You've probably seen that, and maybe in that movie Indiana Jones and um, the quest for the Holy Grail or whatever it's called. They feature Petra in the very end of the movie as to where the Holy Grail is at. But anyway, my favorite was the first one. You know, Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. I think it's still a masterpiece of cinema. Um, the next two are just, I don't know, they've got their issues. But, I mean, they were all four of them good, but the last one was too hurriedly story structured and done. And but anyway, the first one that had the ark in it, I guess there was a truth, there was just a little bit of truth in there, because there is a story about when Babylon, or I mean, yes, when Babylon finally took Jerusalem, and this is going to be some years after the Israelites, the 10 tribes have been taken into exile. The king of Judah, what was his name? Zedekiah or Hezekiah, I can't remember. I always get the two mixed up. But all the princes of Judah had been put to death, so he had no heirs to make more sons. Seemed the line was dead, but yet it wasn't, because God had a plan with the line of Judah. There was a princess named Tia Tephi, and Jeremiah apparently didn't die in the Holy Land, and I never knew this or heard this story, but where the story ends in the Bible, it it matches up like perfectly with the ancient Irish annals. That a man named Olam Fola, which means holy man, Olam Fola, had come from Jerusalem. Um, I'm taking it out of context, but had brought Tia Taffy, and he names this princess Tia Taffy, that was being said she was the eldest daughter of the king of Jerusalem. That's what it says in the Irish annals. Um, I don't believe it names her in the Bible. Now I may be wrong about that, but or that it even named that he had any daughters. But you know, it's safe to assume that in a household he may have been, uh, you know, they did that. They had lots of children, and sometimes some of the children never, uh, their got offspring and made it. You know, they had lower positions like dukes and earls and barons and things, and didn't get the notoriety that the number one or number two right up to the throne would get. It's just was a common thing, you know, all through history when it comes to, you know, who was in head of a tribe or royal clans or, you know, the king or the queen. Anyway, y'all know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to go one more, let's see, page here. We're going to take a break. Um, are the Jews all 12 tribes? Um, I'm going to go ahead and let Michael explain right here out of his book. The most common belief today is both among Christians and secular people that the Jewish people descend from all the 12 tribes of Israel, and that the names Jews and Israel are synonymous. That belief is incorrect. That belief is incorrect. Okay, let me just say that again. The most common belief is today, both among Christians and secular people, that the Jewish people descend from all of the 12 tribes of Israel, and that the names of Jews and Israel are synonymous. That belief is incorrect. I like saying that, because I just like hitting it home, because this is like one of the main points. You gotta pack your gunpowder just so much per grains of shot, or it's just not gonna fire right. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna fire right. Okay. All right. So only after the Assyrian Empire deported the 10 tribes of Israel out of the land of Israel does the Bible start to refer to the kingdom of Judah as the Jews. The reason is very simple. After the 10 tribes of Israel had been carried away from the land of Israel, the covenant of the people of God consisted only of the kingdom of Judah, of which the tribe of Judah made up the majority. That is why the latter part of the Old Testament and the New Testament refers to God's covenant people as Jews, because they were the descendants of the house of Judah, of which the tribe of Judah made up of the majority. When God made covenants with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, God's people were not the Jews, Judah, but all 12 tribes of Israel. Does anybody remember Sunday school? Did anybody go to Sunday school? Okay. I did. I love Bible study, and I love to go to Sunday school, and I did it for a long time, and I still like to go to Bible study. When God made covenants with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, God's people were not Jews, Judah, but all 12 tribes of Israel. They were called Hebrews. That's what they were calling themselves. They were Hebrews. And as they went over into Egypt, they were Hebrews. When they dwelt in the land of Egypt, they were Hebrews. When they came into the land of Israel, they were Hebrews. They were all Hebrews. Only after the Assyrian deportation of the 10 tribes in 721 BC did God's people become synonymous with the Jews. We're going to take a little break right there. I've stopped just short of chapter 4, but I need to take a little break because the author, I believe, has messaged me, and we're going to check in with him, and y'all have a play. Enjoy this segment. I know it's been a long one, and we only got into parts of the book, but I thought maybe we get to know each all better, and you can feel free to comment in the comments. Um, feel free to research anything I'm saying, look it up, Google it, or go to whatever you use for your research material, or go right to the Bible, and you can see that these verses are from the Bible, uh, that has the prophecy parts in it. And, yeah, we'll catch you up in the next one.